Hello there, this is a tutorial video for Rolling Hills, which is number 24 in Vermouth Violin Book 1. Right, so if you are at this stage of the book, where you will have probably just learned to play Walk on Mars and A string hoedown, first thing that you'll notice when you look at Rolling Hills is that it looks fairly straightforward in one way, and that is that it hasn't got any quavers or joggings, half-beat notes. So you can see Walk on Mars there, lots of those. And when you look at Rolling Hills, not so much. So yeah, that's a good thing. But there are a couple of things that I need to go through before I get my violin and show you sort of how to practice it and to break it up into chunks and things like that. So the first thing to say is that there is no slow backing track for this one on the CD. And if you try and play along with track 24, you will find that it is actually really quick. It doesn't sound that quick when you first listen to it, but actually it's quite a struggle to play along with that track. Just as a reminder, if you play the backing tracks through YouTube instead of by the CD, remember you can change the playback speed fairly easily, and if you go to 0.75 it will probably make this one far more achievable, just like I said with A string hoedown. Right, okay, the next thing to say is that this piece is a little bit more unusual because this one has 3 beats in a bar. So there you can see we've got a 3 over a 4, means we've got 3 beats in a bar. Everything else probably that you've played so far will have been in 4 beats in a bar. If you've worked through Vermouth, you will have had a piece of music right near the beginning called At the Ballet in 3 beats in a bar. All the other ones have been 4 beats in a bar, so that's just something to be aware of. Right, okay, so the next thing is that there's quite a lot of writing on the music, okay, so and we're just going to quickly go through that now. So the first thing to say is that this word here, legato, is written and it applies to the entire piece. Now legato means that you need to play nice and smoothly, okay, and the way that we try and do that is we try not to have any gaps between our bows, so we try not to stop our arm between our bows, okay, so talk more a little bit about that later. Right, okay, and the other thing is that we've got lots of letters written on the music, okay, so we've got an MF at the beginning and then a P, then we have an MP and an F, and also we have these symbols here and these words here as well. So I'm quickly going to go through that with you, okay? So these letters stand for Italian words, and these refer to the dynamics, okay? So dynamics is the word for, we use music for loud and soft or loud and quiet, and yep, and this is what these letters mean. If you already know this, I apologise, I'm going to be as quick as I can. Right, so F stands for forte, and forte is Italian for loud. So if you see F on the music, you play nice and loudly. P is the opposite. P stands for piano. It's just the same as piano, but it's an Italian word, so we tend to say piano, and piano means softly is the Italian proper translation. It's easier for us to say quiet because in English we tend to say loud and quiet. So P stands for piano, which is quiet. M stands for mezzo, and mezzo means moderately, which is the direct translation, but medium is a much easier word to remember. So if you have MF at the beginning, it's medium loud, and MP near the end, it's medium quiet. The word next to MP on line 4 is crescendo. It doesn't look like crescendo because the SC make a sh sound, okay? And as you can see, it says in brackets, get louder. And that's getting, that thing that looks like it's getting bigger means exactly the same thing, okay? So the symbol and the word, get my fingers sorted out, those two things mean exactly the same. So the word and the symbol mean the same thing. They both mean get louder. And in the same way, diminuendo and this symbol mean the same thing. They mean get quieter, okay? The dynamics, when they are just written like this, so MF or P, that means do it now. These ones, crescendo and diminuendo, are slightly different because it means you gradually do that. Okay, I always think that unless you play really quietly, MF is about our normal sort of volume that we should play at. Very quickly talk about how to play nice and loudly and nice and quietly. What we want to do is we want to use lots of bow and press reasonably hard with our bow to play forte or loudly. If you press too hard, you're not going to make it a very nice sound, and you can have a little bit of fun doing that if you want to on your violins, but it's not a very nice sound. So we press reasonably hard, but not too hard, and we use lots and lots of bow to achieve a lovely big sound. When we want to play more quietly, we do the opposite. We press a bit more lightly, so we press quite softly on the string, and we don't use as much bow, and then that will achieve a nice soft or quiet sound. And then of course, the getting louder and getting quieter, you just need to gradually use more bow and press a bit harder if you're getting louder. You need to gradually use less bow and press a bit more lightly if you're getting quieter. Now, just before we get started on actually learning to play the notes and dividing the piece up into chunks and things like that, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about legato, like I mentioned earlier. So like I said, legato bowing, basically what we don't want is we don't want a gap between the notes. So I'll demonstrate what I mean. So here I'm just going to play an open A just with a gap between my notes. Now I'm going to play it without a gap between my notes. Okay, that's what I mean. So what I need you to do is try to keep your bow moving until you change direction, as opposed to move it, then stop, and then change direction. And that's where we get our gap. So you keep moving until you change direction, and then you don't get a gap, okay? So when you've finished learning all these notes that we haven't even started yet, that's what we need to try and do. We need to try to make sure we get our bowing as legato as possible, meaning that we don't want it to have any gaps between our notes. Right, so on to actually learning our piece of music. Right, okay, now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the notes on the first 2 lines. That's going to be our first chunk, okay? Now, I'm going to use numbers today. Generally speaking, I do use numbers when I'm teaching, but obviously the notes have names as well. But you will see in a moment why we're going to use numbers for particularly for these first 2 lines. That is because the notes are almost the same if we use numbers, okay? If you have a look at line 1 and line 2 for me, I'm going to go from the beginning. They both start on a 3. Can you see that? So line 1 starts on an A3 and line 2 starts on a D3. And they both have 3, 3, 3 in the first bar. Then they both go 2, 1, open. So they all drop down, 2, 1, open, and the second bar. And then the third bar, they start the same and go slightly different into the 4th bar. So line 1 goes 1, 2, 3, back up again, 1, 2, 3, and drops down to the open A. Line 2 goes 1, 2, and drops back down to the 1 and then to the open. So can you see what I mean? So line 1 and line 2 are almost the same. So line 1 goes, I'm going to go a little bit quicker, so just try and follow it with me. So line 1 goes 3, 3, 3, 2, 1, A, 1, 2, 3, A. So it's all on the A string. Then we go to D3, and this one goes 3, 3, 3, 2, 1, D, 1, 2, 1, D. So it's just those last 2 notes of each line which are different. The rest of it is the same. And that's why we can do both of those 2 lines in one bite-sized chunk, okay? Now I'm going to play those slower than I just said them for you. I'm going to play them for you. Now if you want to have a listen, that's great. If you want to play along, that's great. So because of that, I'm going to count in so that if you want to play along, you can do. All right, so let's make sure we've got everything ready first of all. So instrument on your shoulder, guys, okay? Not here. We don't want a violin beards. We don't want to be able to see your shoulder. Make sure you put your sponge right, or shoulder rest if you've got one, right up on your shoulder, and you lean your head down on your jaw, okay? Then we need to make sure we're not squashing bob, so we make sure I've got a nice straight wrist, and we need to make sure we've got a nice bow hold. Now you might be holding the bow here, you might be holding it a bit further up, that's fine. The bow hold does not change, okay? So I'm just going to go back down to the end. Make sure you're looking at the time. Make sure your pinky's sitting on the top. Make sure all your fingers are nice and bent. Okie doke. Right, so 3 on the A string. I'll just do line 1. Here we go. So 1, 2, 3. Last note is a 3-beat note. I hadn't mentioned that before. Now normally when we have a clear note with a stick, it's a 2-beat note, but the dot adds on half of whatever note it is. Now in this situation, it's a 2-beat note. So half of 2 is 1, and we add that on, okay? So the dot adds on half of that note, We have a 2 beat note, half of 2 is 1, so we add that on, 2 plus 1 is 3. Right, and that fills up that entire bar, because remember we've got 3 beats in a bar. Right, okay, so well done if you played along with me, and here we go, let's try line 2. So 3 on the D string, make sure you're on your stickers, don't squash bob, lovely bow hold, instrument on your shoulder. After 3, 1, 2, 3. So well done if you had a go. If not, have a little practice. Maybe wind the video back and have another go with me. I'm going to play those 2 lines together now, okay? So if you're ready to play, excellent. Just give you a bit of time to get ready. 1, 2, 3 on the A string, bow on the string, first and second lines all the way through at that nice slow speed. 1, 2, 3. Well done, guys. So the most difficult thing about those first 2 lines, they're not too tricky, you should be able to manage them. The most tricky thing is getting your third finger on, all 3 fingers, sorry, onto the D string at the end of the first line. Now, if you need a bit more time to do it, you can. This is the trick. Now that A still has to last for 3 beats, but you don't have to play for 3 beats. So if I play the last 2 bars of the first line and see what I do. Right, let's have a watch. 2, 3, etc. So did you see what I did? So I didn't play for the full 3 beats. I took my fingers off and I got them back on ready, but I still counted the right amount of time. So we still started the second line after 3 beats. But I gave myself a bit of time to just get my 3 fingers on ready. Right, now line 3. This is the 3 line. Okay, you will see why it's called the 3 line. So have a look at the notes in the first bar. They go D, 1, 2, and then they go again, and then they go again. So we do it 3 times. So we go D, 1, 2, and we do it 3 times. And at the end of the line, we have to do a 3 on the D. It's another 3. Okay, how long does that 3 on the D last for? 3 beats. It's another 3. What line are we on? Line 3. It's the 3 line, okay? So D, 1, 2, D, 1, 2, D, 1, 2, 3, and then we hold that for 3 beats. It's our 3 line. Okay, so when you do your D, 1, 2, all your fingers off again, off again, etc. Okay, so you just might need to practice that, but line 3 is not too bad. I'm going to play line 3 now. I'm going to count in, so if you want to play along, you can. Ready on the D? 1, 2, 3. Right, okay, moving on to line 4. Now, the next chunk is going to be line 4, but it's going to include the first note of line 5. So we're going to go up to the first note of line 5. Now, it starts very similarly to the line 3 because we do the same pattern 3 times again, but this time the pattern starts on a D1. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and we're going to do that 3 times. Now, when you come to practice that, you will need to probably have a couple of goes at it, I should think, because you've got to go 1, 2, 3, and then this time, instead of taking all your fingers off, you need to leave one of your fingers on, okay? Leave that one on again. Do you see what I mean? Okay, so you've got to make sure that you can keep that first finger on and put your other 2, 3 on to make that pattern. Now, at the end of doing that 3 times, this time we have to change string and we have to keep moving on up. So we're going to go up on the A string, A, 1, 2, 3. Like I said, we're going to the first note on line 5. Okay, so that whole bar is, whole line is going to sound like this. I'll count in again in case you want to play along. 1, 2, 3. A string. And there we stop there. So you probably will need to practice that as a little chunk, because you've got to move from the D string to the A string, and we want to have it nice and squeak free, and make sure our fingers are on our stickers and everything else you have to remember at the same time, okay? Right, okay, so last chunk is line 5, but you start from the first note of line 5. You don't start from the second note, okay? So line 5, we're going to go all the way back down again. So we're up to the A3, and now we're going to take our fingers off one by one and go all the way down to the D strings. That means doing this. So 3, 2, 1, A. All our fingers back on again on the D string. 3, 2, 1, D. Now, in music, we have things called scales. Now, a scale is something that goes up to a certain point and comes back down again, and we play every single note one by one. Okay, now this is basically what we're doing here, and what we're doing here is called a D scale, okay, because it goes from a D to a D. Now, in this case, in line 5, we are going from a D, which is an A3, all the way down to our open D. So it should sound like this. Just have a listen first. Okay, so all our fingers one by one all the way down. So that is a scale going down. Now, usually with music, we do scales and they go up and then they come back down again, okay? So if you actually have a look at line 4, go back to line 4 for a second, you'll notice that what you did in line 4 was the beginning part of the scale, and now we're coming back down again, okay? Now, what's really difficult about this is that you've got to get your 3 fingers on the D string this time with very, very, very little time to spare. So you're going to have to practice that, guys. So you're going to have to practice going from A to get all your 3 fingers on their stickers. Don't just them down like that, because they won't go in the right place. You've got to make sure they go in the right place on the stickers, okay? Right, okay. Once you get all the way down to the bottom D, you then have to just do a D1 and then the long D just to finish, okay? So I'm going to play that through for you now. You will probably need to practice it, but if you're playing along, I will count in again. Here we go. So 1, 2, I didn't actually say what I'm playing. Line 5, okay? Beginning of line 5. 1, 2, 3. Okay, right, so chunk 1 is lines 1 and 2. Second chunk is the 3 line 3. The next chunk is the 4th line plus the first note of the last line, and then the last chunk is just the last line. Once you can do the 4th line and the 5th line, though, you need to practice them doing them without stopping. So 4th and 5th line carrying on between the 2. So that's what I'm going to play you now. So that if you are at that point and you want to play your 4th and 5th lines, you can do that. Okay, so here we go. 4th line, starting on a D1, all the way to the end. 1, 2, 3. That's how that should sound. If you can play line 4 and line 5 like that without stopping, with your fingers in the right place, and you can get your D3 on quick enough, everything like I just did, then you'll be able to play the whole piece, because that's the hardest bit. Now, hopefully, throughout all of that tutorial video so far, you'll have been able to see me using nice legato, smooth bowing. I wasn't, though, putting any dynamics in as I took you through the piece bit by bit, because generally speaking, with all musical instruments, I would have thought it would be that we want to get our notes right, we want to make sure it sounds nice, and for violins we want to make sure our fingers are on our stickers and our bow's sounding nice, we want to make sure our rhythm's correct, and basically when everything is starting to come together, that's when we put the finishing touches on our pieces, one of which is the dynamics. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to learn it all first, you'll need to make sure you stuck it all together so you can play it all without stopping, and then you can then think about putting your dynamics in as well. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to play it through for you with the backing track, as in track 24. I haven't slowed it down, this is the proper speed. And I will do the legato bowing again, and I will make sure that I put all the dynamics in for you as well, so you can hear how it should sound with all the louds and quiets. Okay, if you're playing with me, then good luck, but you don't need to, because you can play with the backing track by yourselves. Here we go then. So that's how it should sound. Right, okay, so best of luck playing, learning to play and playing Rolling Hills. I hope you like it. I think it's a really lovely one. And if you can play it all the way through, nice and fluently, legato bowing with the dynamics, then please, by all means, get mum or dad to do a video of you and send it to me so I can have a look and give you some feedback. Best of luck.